Okay, now conduction within the plant. How does the gases exchange takes place in the plant? So we have seen the respiratory organs are stomata, lenticles and root hairs. So the stomatal openings leads to the series of spaces in the cells. Like this is the stomatal opening, if you think this is the stomatal opening. Okay, this is our stomatal opening. Okay, now the stomatal opening, what happens? The air enters into the cell. So in between the cells there are spaces. The space is present in between the cells. Okay, the air enters into the spaces in between the cells. This is the space. So the air is entering in between the space. So this is the black color is thing considered as air. Okay, so air enters in between the cells. Now this air gets dissolved in the water. The air gets So the air gets dissolved in the water. So atmosphere from outside, the air enters through stomata. This is our stomata. The stomata leads to the cells. Inside cells there are some spaces. In between the cells there will be some spaces now. So in these spaces the spaces are occupied with air. Okay, the spaces are occupied by air. Clear? So now the spaces are occupied by the air. So here the water will be there. Water. Like this water will be there. Okay. Water will be there. So this air gets dissolved in the water. Clear? And this water enters through the cell wall. Through porous cell wall. This water enters through porous cell wall. We have pores on the cell wall. We know that. So this air enters into the cell through porous cell wall, which is dissolved in the water. Clear? Once again I will repeat. So stomata is the opening present in the leaf through which gases exchange takes place. Okay, from atmosphere the air enters into the stomata. So after the air has entered through stomata, there will be spaces in between the cells. We know that interstitial spaces and other cells madhyalo spaces untai. So this air occupies the space in between the cells. Now the spaces near the cell, outside the cell, a thin water film will be there in the leaves. Okay, water film. This air gets dissolved in that water. Okay, na? Prati cell chuttu చిన్నగా వాటర్ లేయర్ ఉంటుంది. ఈ వాటర్ లేయర్లో మనకు అవుట్ సైడ్ నుంచి వచ్చిన ఎయిర్ డిజాల్వ్ అయిపోతుంది. ఈ వాటర్ ఎక్కడ ఉంటుంది? గ్యాప్స్లో ఉంటుంది అనమాట. సో డిజాల్వ్ అయిపోయినప్పుడు వెన్ this water enters into the cell. Now the water has entered into the cell. ఎలా ఎంటర్ అవుతుంది? Through porous cell wall. Now the air has entered into the cell. Okay, air has entered into the cell. So oxygen has entered into the cell and plants takes respiration. So here what is the technique is, now see, oxygen has entered into the cell. Now the cell is rich in oxygen. So observe carefully. Now the cell is rich in oxygen. Air has entered into the cell. Cell is rich in it. Oxygen deficient. Oxygen is less here. So gradient has decreased. Air gradient has decreased. ఇక్కడ oxygen ఎక్కువ ఉంది, బయట తక్కువ ఉంది. So less oxygen. We write in blue color, less oxygen. oxygen less, oxygen more. Okay, cell లోపల oxygen ఎక్కువ ఉంది, బయట cell బయట oxygen తక్కువ ఉంది. So what happens? Now here it is low. Outside that is atmosphere, oxygen will be more. So it will enter through stomata. It will enter through stomata and enters inside the open place present in between the cells. Okay, now here high, here low. Clear? Now high to low. So diffusion is nothing but high to low. Again the principle. Once oxygen enters the cell, oxygen cell lo enter అయిపోయింది. సో ఎప్పుడు ఏమవుతుంది? సెల్ బయట ఆక్సిజన్ తక్కువ అయిపోయింది. సెల్ బయట ఆక్సిజన్ తక్కువ అయిపోతే ఏమవుతుంది? బయట నుంచి అట్మాస్ఫియర్ ఆక్సిజన్ బయట ఎక్కువ ఉంది, హై నుంచి లోకి వచ్చేది, ఇక్కడికి వచ్చేసింది, లో దగ్గరికి వచ్చేసింది. డిఫ్యూషన్ ప్రిన్సిపల్ అంటే ఏంటి? హై టు లో. ఓకే, సో బయట ఎక్కువ ఉంది, అట్మాస్ఫియర్ లో హై ఉంది, స్టొమాటా నుంచి లోపలికి వచ్చేసింది, లోకి వచ్చేసింది. ఓకే, వచ్చేసిందా? ఇప్పుడు ఈ ఆక్సిజన్ ఇక్కడ యూటిలైజ్ చేసుకుంటూ ఉంటుంది. సెల్ విల్ కంటిన్యూస్లీ యూజ్ ఆక్సిజన్ ఫర్ రెస్పిరేషన్. సో ఆక్సిజన్ లెవెల్ ఇక్కడ డిక్రీజ్ అయిపోతుంది. ఇప్పుడు ఇక్కడ హై ఉంది, ఇక్కడ లో ఉంది. క్లియర్? Cell will be continuously using oxygen now. So oxygen level decreases inside the cell. So now oxygen is high here, low inside the cell. So it enters from outside to inside the cell by same principle, diffusion. Same the carbon dioxide also. So see, carbon dioxide, after I will explain this another cell. Now oxygen has been utilized and carbon dioxide is produced here. So concentration of carbon dioxide inside the cell is more, outside the cell is less. So the carbon dioxide comes outside. Okay, outside. Now it has come outside. Clear? Oxygen has been utilized by the plant for respiration and carbon dioxide is produced. This carbon dioxide is more inside the cell. Now it is high, so it comes to low position. Now what happens? Now here it is low. Now it has carbon dioxide has come outside. Now what happens? It again goes to the atmosphere. It has become high here. Now it will go outside into the atmosphere through stomata. Again through stomata. Clear? It has become high here. Now it is low at the atmosphere. So high to low. Again it will go high to low. But in plants what happens? The carbon dioxide which is released generally is utilized for the photosynthesis. Okay, whatever the carbon dioxide, most not complete carbon dioxide, but most of the carbon dioxide which is released during respiration is utilized in the photosynthesis. We will see that in the differences between photosynthesis and respiration. You will understand that clearly. Why we should, generally our adults will say, we should not sleep under the tree in the night. రాత్రి పూట చెట్టు కింద పడుకోకూడదు అంటారు. ఎందుకు? We'll discuss that in the differences. Okay, clear? And then so simple principle, diffusion. How does the oxygen or gases exchange takes place in the plants? So in the atmosphere oxygen is more, so it enters through stomata and comes to the spaces in between the cells. Now oxygen is more in the outside the cell and less inside the cell. So by diffusion it dissolves in the water present outside the cell and through cell wall it enters into the cell. Now inside the cell oxygen is there. Oxygen is being utilized by respiration and carbon dioxide is produced. Now carbon dioxide is more inside the cell and less outside. So high to low, it came outside. Now outside it is high compared to the atmosphere. So again from high to low it goes outside. A gradient of network is formed. Gradient means a charge of network is formed and it goes outside by diffusion. So this same principle is observed in the lenticels and root hairs also. So by diffusion principle, the gases exchange takes place. Only the leaf, in the leaf it is explained in your textbook. The same principle is applied for the lenticels and the root hairs also. Clear? Now, so what happens? So we have seen that root hairs will absorb oxygen from the soil particles. Root hairs will absorb oxygen from the soil particles. So I have explained that in between the soil particles there is some air. So this air is absorbed by root hairs. This air is taken by the root hairs and given to the plant or roots. Now what happens if the plants are growing in marshy areas? Plants are growing in marshy areas. What happens if plants are growing in very wet areas? So we know marshy areas, బురదలో గ్రో అవుతున్నాయి అనుకోండి plants. What happens? బురద అంటే వాటర్ కంటెంట్ ఎక్కువ ఉంటుంది మట్టిలో. You have more water. So how can the roots take respiration? Because they are inside the soil and the soil particles are filled with water, more water. Then how does the respiration takes place in plants growing in marshy areas? So we know that mangrove plants, you have studied in your previous classes about mangrove plants. How does the respiration takes place in mangrove plants? How does the respiration takes place? Okay.